Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, July 30th, 2026. In today's detailed weather report and forecast, we will be going over the extreme and life-threatening heat throughout the southwest United States, as well as the southern plains of the United States. As well as that, we will be going over Super Typhoon Dolphin as it has undergone a successful eyewall replacement. Okay, everybody. So as you can see right here, Super Typhoon Dolphin has made some changes since last night, and it is obvious that it has undergone that successful eye replacement cycle, and it is expected to reach winds still of 180 miles per hour, and it's going to further potentially intensify from that, but it is expected to weaken beyond that peak intensity point, which could be as soon as the next 2 days. Now, from there, we could be seeing a couple more eye replacement cycles, highly likely. And obviously, you have some explosive convection now on the more western side of the storm, unlike last night, where you had it all down here in the southeastern part of the storm. So that bottom right quadrant it's still perfectly intact. Absolutely beautiful storm, beautiful setup, and very, very large. So that is about it for Typhoon Dolphin as of right now. Okay, everybody, as we can see here, we have our Wide Atlantic Satellite Imagery GOES 19. So obviously, and kind of surprisingly, we still have some decently deep convection over here in eastern Colorado, throughout central eastern Colorado. Wasn't expecting to continue to see a lot of that convection today, but it's still holding up fairly well in that region. And right now, throughout north central and the Florida Panhandle, we are seeing some high winds, and it is currently under a marginal risk as of right now. That risk will continue on in tomorrow and will shift back north just about 40 or so miles. And from last night when we were seeing all that convection coming off of North Carolina, as you can see, it's getting ripped apart in the jet stream as I had previously mentioned it would. So it is no longer a threat to the Carolinas. Um, and of course, there could be occasional thunderstorms still coming off of that region that we had mentioned last night off the coast of North Carolina, as well, and maybe potentially parts of South Carolina. But you're also seeing some pretty decent thunderstorms here in South Dakota. Some pretty decent convection, but it's all moving really quickly. So it is still maybe a little spot to watch in tomorrow. So anybody out in that region, make sure to pay attention to this. You know, you don't need to pay too much, just enough to where you know what's going on. Alrighty, everybody. So we are here on Weatherfront looking at the weather across the country. And as I said, in South Dakota, they are getting some pretty decent storms. They do have a mesoscale discussion as of July 30th at 2:45 a.m. So watch is unlikely for this system. Winds will be around 55 to 70 miles an hour and hail up to 1.25. That is a pretty decent risk, so that's why an eye needs to be really put towards looking at this storm. We can look at that base reflectivity, and honestly, we can take a look at all of these here. As you can see, Mission is getting hit with some of the hardest, as well as Spring Creek, St. Francis, Menzel, Kilgore, and it will be moving towards Crookston. So, that's why we need to really watch this thing as it does start to move that way. So, yeah. As we were saying right here, it is a busy night, and South Dakota. Now, if we want to take a look here at temperatures, we're looking at 100 up to 116 degrees right now, and that's for Lake Havasu City. 113 in Phoenix. That's pretty warm, I would say. And this is for Friday. Now Indio looking at 115 as well as Blythe, and 107 in Ajo, I think that's how you say that. And overall, just a very, very hot, dangerously like potentially life-threatening heat if precautions aren't taken on this. And this is primarily for the southwest Arizona area through south central Arizona, all the way down into southern California. Now, this is our wind barbs here. Wind not too high, so you don't even have a breeze in the southwest right now. So it is very warm in that area. But also looking over here at Dallas, Ardmore, Oklahoma City, Denison, Wichita Falls, McAllister, looking it up to 102 degrees. That is extremely hot. So please take proper precautions, as I know these are densely populated areas, as well as Phoenix. So please, anybody in those areas, I ask that you make sure to remain indoors if possible. Unless you absolutely have to go out, and make sure to have your air conditioning running, but not too harshly, because if it goes out, things could get pretty rough. Now, looking at cloud cover across the U.S., whole East Coast through the Midwest, really overcast, entire state of Florida, just about, really overcast. You know, I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indianapolis, Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then like the deep south, we're seeing a lot of clouds. So the heat won't get too harsh, right? Now we're going to look at smoke density, as we know the smoke did get pretty dense up here in the Pacific Northwest. So anybody that is in these areas, this pertains to you, especially in Kennewick, Lewiston, Missoula, Great Falls, Boise, Burns, areas like that. Smoke is fairly thick right now. Once again, it's one of those things where just stay inside, turn on your air fresheners, and, make sure to really just keep away from outdoor physical activity for the next couple of days. Now, looking at our outlooks. Currently, marginal risk for tonight. This was last issued at 9 p.m., as you can see right here on Wednesday. So, still have that marginal risk, up here for central North Dakota and, west central South Dakota. Sub 2% for a tornado, not necessarily a risk at all. But you still have that hail and wind risk here. So, and it's looking more and more likely with that mesoscale discussion that has been issued that is definitely still there. Don't take marginal for granted. Now Salt Lake City, pretty big area, also under that marginal risk, but primary threat is wind, not necessarily hail or a tornado. And then going here into north central Florida, so Ocala, Gainesville, Cedar Key, and even Deltona, and even southern Jacksonville, as well as St. Augustine, Palm Coast, Daytona Beach. Looking at that 5% wind threat, make sure you got your plants inside, because it could be getting pretty gusty. You don't want plants to go missing or them to, break or anything. Now looking at that fire weather outlook. Nothing. Nothing, guys. You're safe. You're safe from the fire for now. Just don't get too rowdy with the fires you do have. Now, obviously, for mesoscale discussions, we do have one up here in central South Dakota. Now, looking at our excessive rainfall outlook, Denver, Colorado, and Colorado Springs, as well as Pueblo, La Junta, Lamar, Walsenburg, all the way through to Gunnison, Breckenridge, and Fort Morgan, even Fort Collins. You guys are in a slight risk for some excessive rainfall. And I know this is in the Rocky Mountains, so rain will build up in certain spots. So anybody in those low-lying areas of those mountain ranges, make sure to have some precautionary plan, just as a little side thought there. Because you never know with this excessive rainfall, you do get those flash floods that just show up with, all it takes is one good burst of a convective environment, and bang, you have a pretty monster rainstorm that could flood some areas. Now, in this marginal risk for excessive rainfall, you have here as far north as Rapid City through Gillette, into Grand Junction, Albuquerque, Farmington, Richfield, St. George, Tucson, Safford, Silver City, areas like that. You guys have that possibility. Remember that. You're not completely safe. You still are in some risk zone. Now looking through here to Kansas City, Kearney, this is a very long stretch here. I will put it like this. So, southeastern Nebraska all the way to eastern Kansas to southwest through southwest Missouri into eastern Oklahoma all the way through central and north from northwest to southeast Arkansas. That includes Little Rock, potentially Memphis, all the way down through central Alabama, south central Alabama, South Georgia, into the Panhandle of Florida. You guys are looking at a marginal risk for some excessive rainfall. So just keep that in mind, that is a possibility with these sudden bursts of rain. Now, looking up here, New England is not in the clear yet. Now, are we getting closer to that point? Yes. The risk has moved far more north than it did last night. Last night, it was down through New York and Philadelphia. Right now, we are looking at a slight risk in Boston, Southbridge, potentially Worcester. Now, this sort of splits here down the middle, but I would consider this still in necessarily in that risk. So you have Springfield, Connecticut, right? No, Massachusetts. Sorry, not Connecticut, Massachusetts. Great Barrington, Saratoga Springs, Schenectady, I think Schenectady, you know, Albany, New York. You're in that risk. And then you have just the entire southern states of Vermont and New Hampshire in that risk. And then Portland, Maine, you're in that slight risk for excessive rainfall. Portsmouth, Manchester, Leominster. So, yeah, and then obviously with this marginal risk, you have Utica, Syracuse, Binghamton, Scranton, Bridgeport, Hartford, Norwich, Providence. And then you have Lebanon, Rutland, Middlebury, Conway, Lewiston, and Vinyl Haven. So keep that in mind, even for the ones in the marginal risk, that you do have that possibility for sudden downpours, torrential of that rain. So obviously, the temperatures here really showing how it will be distributed. Very warm. Now looking here at humidity, it's very humid throughout the Midwest as of right now. Humidity values up to 80 in Chicago. Very moist. But then you get into Nevada, Southern Nevada, Las Vegas has humidity of 9, so it's essentially it's not there. Same with Tonopah with a humidity value of 4. Now in Los Angeles, you got a nice 55 percent humidity value. That is perfect in my opinion. I personally think 55 is very nice. San Diego 76. Yep, it's also very nice. Now Oceanside 87. That's where the air is gonna feel. You're gonna feel it in your chest a little bit, right? It might feel a little more difficult to breathe when doing those outside exercises for some, just because that humidity will blanket you, especially with those temperatures out there. It's gonna raise that heat index. It's gonna continue to. So yeah, even northern Nevada looking at not heat index, humidity values of as low as 6, 8, 13, 11, 7 in Eureka, 5 in Kingston. Um, so now if we want to look here down at the southeast, in Florida, we are looking at up to 92 in Tallahassee. Very, very moist, and I think that's where we're getting a lot of those storms building off of. Because that's where they were coming off of initially, yesterday morning. And through Pensacola, you're looking at 59, very nice. Mobile 65, Gulfport 73. Panama, you're looking at 80. Jacksonville 86. Orlando at a nice 62 there. Miami at 72. Now, going up here into New York and New England as a whole, Albany is at a 96% humidity value. That is very thick, very thick. So you're going to see a lot of moisture, and that's also where a lot of that that's where a lot of that rain will come from, as it builds off of that humidity right there. So it's showing that that environment also is also fairly convective. Now, it's interesting with the Midwest because you go from 80 in Chicago to roughly 40, 50 miles, maybe even 60 at most, north into Milwaukee, where it drops 30%. Even Round Lake Beach here, 44. That is a very, very, very significant change in that such short span of distance. Now up here in Montana, also looking at some significantly low humidity. Now looking at the heat index, 113 in Mexicali, and Blythe at 111. That is hot, guys. That is very hot. So you're gonna want to stay very precautious with these heat values. And you're looking at 101 in Ajo, 108 in Phoenix, 102 in Tucson. That is very hot. 111 in like Havasu City. But especially like Mexicali here, definitely make sure to play it safe. Although I know it's not in America, it's bordering, so it's gonna be very, very warm. And then just going up here in Oklahoma City and McAllister, Tulsa, 101, 103, Oklahoma City, 97. Now, the reason these are a bit lower, even though the true temp is going to be around the exact same, is due to the fact that the humidity isn't as high in this region, so the feel like isn't really going to be all that affected. Also, some half decent cloud cover in that area. So that is also another reason as to why, it is going to be a pretty decent temperature. Okay, everybody, looking here at the National Hurricane Center, that 7-day forecast, absolutely nothing, guys. As well as that 2-day forecast, just the environment won't be favorable for a while now. So really, Atlantic has nothing to glare at. Nothing to look at really here. So yeah, that's the Atlantic for you. Now going over to the Pacific. The Pacific's a little bit of a different story. It is the story, So Genevieve is out there still standing strong. Once again, very surprising at how it re-intensified, although it is slowing down, no longer a major hurricane. That is about it for the Pacific, the East Pacific. The East Pacific. Now going into the Central Pacific, you have obviously Genevieve veering this way, veering west. So Hawaii did get very, very lucky with Fausto. We are very thankful for that. I'm thankful for that. I didn't want to see potentially more wildfires because that's what a lot of these systems will bring to the Hawaiian Islands are wildfires. So that's why it's very important that these systems remain fairly far away because all it takes is one getting too close and a red flag warning, and then you have what we had in Maui a few years back, which we just can't have happen. Okay, everybody, so you have Hurricane Genevieve's forecast cone right here. Expected to become a tropical storm by Friday morning, potentially sooner. So this was as of 5 p.m. Wednesday that Genevieve was moving west-northwest at around 9 miles an hour, maximum sustained winds of around 100. And this was 5 p.m. Hawaiian time, so about 7 hours behind Eastern Standard. So this is it for Genevieve. I mean, there's not too much left to talk about with Genevieve other than we know that it will weaken and it will not make a landfall. Alrighty, guys, that is all I have for you this morning. I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and if you did, and if you found it informative, life-saving, and entertaining, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and also like the video and potentially show it to your friends and family because I would really appreciate that as I am still a growing creator, and I am glad that you guys are here to watch this content. So that is all I have for tonight. Remember to be safe and stay informed.